On the day went ahead as planned. Emily, her sister, donned a stunning wedding dress and married her boyfriend, Daniel. Their mother, Sarah, called repeatedly, growing angrier with each unanswered call. Ungrateful child, she seethed. Her younger brother, Jake, messaged, accusing her of being petty over a 2-year-old grudge. Her usually stoic father, Michael, said coldly, "Tell her if she doesn't come home today, we'll act like we never had a daughter." They didn't truly want her there. They just couldn't bear the thought of Emily's wedding being less than perfect without her blessing. But there was a problem: she was already dead. From a young age, Lily knew she wasn't loved in this family. When Sarah returned from a business trip with 2 new toys for Jake and Emily, Lily timidly reminded her mother that she hadn't received one. Sarah frowned impatiently. "They're expensive, and I didn't have enough money for you." At just 5 years old, Lily was already acutely aware of the coldness from her own mother. At the wedding, Sarah finished greeting guests and retreated to a corner, repeatedly dialing Lily's number. After the 3rd call went unanswered and disconnected, Sarah looked shocked. "Lily, I'm your mother." Jake came over, patting her back. "Mom, don't be mad. It's not worth it for Lily. You know how she is." Sarah's frustration spilled over. "Of all 3 of you, I've put the most into Lily. When she was born, the doctor said she stole nutrients from Jake." Lily had heard this story countless times, and it always ended with her being punished, locked in her room while the rest of the family went out without her. "Mom, don't worry. I'll get her here, even if I have to drag her," Jake promised. He sent Lily a flurry of messages. "Lily, you'd better show up in an hour. How can you be so selfish? You know Mom has a heart condition." After hitting send, he paused, then put away his phone and went to help with the guests. Even he didn't believe she'd come. Emily was the golden child, the perfect daughter. How could Lily be her sister? As Lily watched from above, Emily sat in the dressing room, the makeup artist touching up her smudged eyeliner. Emily took their father's hand, tears in her eyes. "Dad, can you believe Lily still isn't here? She's my sister, and I really wanted her to bless my wedding." Michael patted her shoulder. "Don't worry. I told Jake to get her. I won't let you down." Michael found Jake in the hallway. "Tell Lily if she doesn't come, she's no longer part of this family." "Dad, she's not responding to my messages," Jake said through gritted teeth. "I knew it. She's heartless. She's just trying to ruin Emily's big day." 2 years ago, Lily had brought Daniel home. The moment Emily saw him, she was smitten. That night, Emily took Lily for a walk, buying her a bubble tea. Linking arms, she said, "Lily, I really like guys like Daniel. You're so amazing, you can find someone better. Just give him to me." Lily refused, but soon after, Daniel broke up with her. When she asked why, he pushed her away in disgust. "Your family told me everything. You're a liar, stealing money, bullying classmates, even had an abortion in college." As Daniel's words sank in, Lily smiled. He frowned. "Aren't you going to defend yourself?" She shook her head. Her family had exaggerated her flaws, and truthfully, she'd never loved Daniel deeply. When she was alive, no one cared about her. Now that she was dead, no one even knew. Just then, Daniel entered, looking dashing in his suit. He kissed Emily's cheek. "Still no sign of Lily? Let's forget about her. She'll only ruin our day." Emily hugged him, looking every bit the concerned bride. This wasn't the first time Lily had been let down by her family. When she was named an outstanding graduate, the school wanted her parents to attend and speak on stage. Lily nervously asked her mother, who agreed. But on the day of the ceremony, Sarah called to say they couldn't make it. Emily was sick. In a video call, Emily apologized, looking pale. "Sorry, Lily. I'm not feeling well. You're so independent. You'll be fine without us." "Congratulations." But later, Lily saw Emily's social media post, a photo of her, Sarah, and Michael in Emily's bedroom, captioned, "A small joy in life," with no mention of a hospital visit. In the banquet hall, the piano played a sweet melody as Emily, in her long fishtail dress, prepared to walk down the aisle. Lily watched, a silent observer to the life she'd once been a part of, now an outsider even in death. After the speeches from her parents, Justin took the stage, a wide grin on his face. He playfully bumped Stephen and declared, "This is my one and only sister, the apple of our eye. If you ever mistreat her, you'll have all of us to answer to." Stephen looked at Jessica, his eyes filled with adoration. "I'd never dream of it," he vowed, and the room erupted in applause. Lily stood there, her incorporeal form perched on a bouquet of flowers at the edge of the stage. She watched the scene unfold, feeling nothing. She'd expected heartbreak, but perhaps she'd endured all the pain life had to offer before her death. Now she could only observe with a bitter, detached gaze, like a ghost watching a world that had long since moved on without her. At one of the tables, whispers rose. "Wait, didn't they have 3 kids? Why did Justin say he only had one sister?" "That's probably the second daughter, Jasmine. All the studying in the world doesn't matter if your character's bad." Thanks to her family's lies, Lily had a terrible reputation among the relatives. There had been one kind aunt, though. During a family gathering, she'd given Lily a plush dolphin toy. But when Justin, used to getting his way, wanted to play with it and Lily refused, he'd taken scissors to it. To protect her precious son, Lily's mother had told the aunt that Lily had cut up the toy herself, claiming she didn't like it. After that, the aunt's attitude changed completely, and she stopped giving Lily red envelopes during festivals. Lily's mother felt a twinge of guilt and was nicer to her for a short while, but that quickly faded. In their family, the favoritism was blatant. When Jessica was born, her father's business took off. He was convinced she'd brought good luck, so she became his favorite. Her mother, on the other hand, doted on Justin because he was the son she'd always wanted after having 3 daughters. As for Lily, she'd been born chubby and healthy, but her twin brother hadn't survived past 24 hours. They all thought she was bad luck. When she was a child, she couldn't understand why whatever Justin and Jessica wanted to eat magically appeared on the dining table the next day. Even though she was allergic to seafood on her birthday, just because Jessica mentioned wanting crab, her father had booked a seafood restaurant. When Lily was 12, an earthquake hit a neighboring county. The family had been napping at home. Without hesitation, her parents each grabbed one of her siblings and fled. Lily had stumbled downstairs, tears streaming down her face as the ceiling shook, but no one came back for her. It was the same kind of abandonment she'd felt when the driver had dragged her to the deserted woods at the foot of the mountain. After the wedding ended, her father immediately turned serious, telling her mother to keep calling Lily. Jessica, with tears glistening in her eyes, took his hand. "Let it go, Dad. Jasmine is still young. Maybe she's just throwing a tantrum. I'm her sister. I shouldn't hold it against her." Her father's eyes softened with pity. Justin scoffed, "Sis, you're too kind to her. She's never treated you like a sister." Jessica bit her lip, looking on the verge of tears. Lily watched them, feeling a deep sense of irony. Jessica already had all the family's love, yet she still wanted more. She resented Lily, and Lily knew it. When Lily was younger, though her mother didn't love her, she hadn't been so cruel. On Lily's birthday, she'd still bring home a cake. But one year, just as Lily was about to blow out the candles and make a wish, Jessica had burst into tears. "It's nothing," she'd said, forcing a smile. "I just remembered this was supposed to be a birthday for 2. That comment had changed everything. Lily's mother had snatched the candle away. "All you think about is food, Jasmine. Don't you know your brother died because of you? Have you no heart?" Terrified, Lily had stared at her mother, who then threw the cake in the trash. After her mother left the room, Jessica had dropped the act. With a gentle smile that masked her malice, the 10-year-old Jessica had hissed, "Jasmine, why were you born? Mom and Dad only loved me until you came along. You should have died with your brother." Lily had never understood that hatred. But after Justin was born, Jessica had been all sweetness and light to him. The year Lily took the college entrance exam, Justin was starting 9th grade. Her mother had asked her to enroll in a local university to take care of Justin. When Lily refused, her mother had looked at her coldly. "Jasmine, can't you see how hard things are for us? Don't be so selfish." After Lily left for school, 22-year-old Jessica had suddenly decided she wanted to learn the piano. Her mother had someone clear out Lily's room, throwing away her bed and wardrobe and stuffing her clothes into a storage room. The room had become Jessica's piano studio. Jessica had even posted a video on social media, sitting at her new, expensive piano with a serene smile as sunlight streamed in. When Lily called home, her mother was still angry. "Since you think you're so grown up and won't listen to me, why do you need a room here? Don't bother coming back." Jessica had then taken the phone, her voice sickly sweet. "Jasmine, don't make Mom mad. When you come home, you can sleep with me. I won't let you be homeless." But Lily could hear the amusement hiding beneath those false words. Just a month after, I left, and she couldn't wait to kick me out of this house, with my mom choosing to acquiesce and enable it. In the afternoon, Jessica went back to their new home with Stephen, and I followed behind my parents and Justin. Justin drove while my parents sat in the back seat. The empty passenger seat, always reserved for Jessica, was where I sat now. I listened as they discussed my faults. She hated me so much, hated this family, that she didn't even want to come back for her sister's wedding. My mom leaned tiredly on my dad's shoulder. My education of her was truly a failure. But my dad patted her with pity. "She's an ungrateful white-eyed wolf, not worth your trouble." I turned my head, carefully observing their expressions, desperately trying to find a hint of care, but there was none. My sudden disappearance only made them feel annoyance and resentment. Not one of them, even for a second, doubted whether I was in trouble. Though I was just a soul, tears still streamed down my face. As I cried, I asked with a bitter smile, "Mom, did you really ever love me? Why do you hate me so much? Why did you give birth to me?" I had asked the same question long ago, back in 9th grade. It was a year of intense study. My dad was away on a business trip, Justin was still young, and Jessica had just entered her freshman year of college. My mom had kidney stones, and I cared for her every day, shuttling between school and the hospital. I lost weight from exhaustion. For a while, my mom seemed to soften. She gave me more pocket money that month than Justin. When our neighbors praised me for being sensible and filial, and when she went to school to stand up for me after I was bullied, I thought things were finally changing. But one afternoon, as we were crossing the street together, she unexpectedly held my hand. That mother-daughter intimacy felt so unfamiliar that I almost instinctively pushed her hand away. She staggered back a few steps. As dusk fell and the green light turned red, a small car whizzed past us. The warmth in my mom's eyes faded, replaced by a coldness I knew all too well. "Indeed, an ungrateful white-eyed wolf," she said with a straight face. That night, I was consumed by regret, confusion, and helplessness. I used a compass to poke several holes in my arm, but even the pain couldn't ease the despair raging inside me. Eventually, I walked into my mom's room and asked, "Mom, since you don't love me, why did you give birth to me?" She closed her eyes, saying nothing. I knew she wasn't asleep, but she had never deigned to answer me when I was alive, and now that I was dead, she couldn't hear me, nor would she respond. After dinner, Justin called my phone again, and this time, it was answered. Filled with anger, he finally had an outlet to vent. "Jasmine, are you an animal? You didn't come home for your sister's wedding, making Dad and Mom sad. Do you think you're great, playing us like this?" A moment of silence, then a hoarse voice came from the other end of the line. "I'm her boyfriend. She said that your whole family is disgusting and she won't come back to see you. Stop calling." The call ended. Justin stared in disbelief, then suddenly kicked over a chair, swearing. But I was stiff all over, losing all my strength. At the sound of that voice, I was forcibly dragged back into that memory before my death. I had missed the last train because of overtime work and could only take a taxi to the bus station. The driver was a pale-faced young man with a somewhat gloomy look in his eyes. He seemed somewhat familiar, but my brain was too tired to think clearly. I leaned against the car window, trying to rest. At first, everything seemed normal. He chatted with me like any other driver, but then Jessica called. As a bride-to-be, even on the eve of her wedding, she didn't forget to taunt me. "I'm about to marry Stephen tomorrow, and I'm so excited I can't sleep," she said softly and sweetly. "Thank you for bringing him home." I bit my lip, my voice filled with anger. "Jessica, this disgusting talk, these dirty tricks, how many times do you want to play this game?" She seemed completely oblivious, her tone even more lighthearted. "So it's settled. You have to come to the wedding tomorrow." After hanging up the phone, I couldn't hold back my heavy breathing, my chest heaving violently. The driver suddenly spoke. "Are you having a fight with your family?" Frowning, I looked up and realized that the car was in a desolate wilderness. My heart raced. I forced myself to stay calm. "How much do you want?" But what he wanted wasn't money. The continuous overtime had left me extremely tired, my limbs weak, no match for his strength. He covered my mouth and dragged me into a small grove. The night wind was silent, and the moonlight cast an eerie glow. He tightly pinched my neck and slapped my face hard. "You slut, do you regret leaving me? Why do you look down on me just because you're with the rich? Beg for mercy, bark like a dog, and I'll let you go." I didn't even recognize him. "Who are you? Who are you?" Suddenly, his grip loosened, and his hand turned into a gentle caress on my face. "I am your man." I had a vague feeling that he wasn't a complete stranger, but I just couldn't place where I had seen him before. I struggled with all my might and somehow managed to touch my phone. The speed dial called back the most recent number. After 2 rings, Jessica decisively hung up. The man realized what was happening and laughed cruelly, pocketing my phone. Then he broke every finger on my right hand. In his pocket was also a spring knife. While I was still conscious, I felt the blade cut into my left wrist. As he pulled the knife away, the tip grazed my cheek, peeling off a patch of uneven skin. "You slut, see how you try to seduce others with this face now." I don't remember if I died in excruciating pain or from excessive blood loss. All I recall is the wind that night, whistling past my exposed, blood-stained cheeks. Perhaps people think of pleasant things before they die. I thought back to before I turned 5, when my mom sent me to the countryside to give birth. To Justin, the countryside was a place of no consequence, but to me, it held the only warmth I'd ever truly known. There lived my elderly grandma, the kindest soul in the world. She was the one who plucked the tenderest Chinese tune sprouts from the tree, blanched them, and fried eggs to feed me. When my mom called, saying Jessica wanted Chinese tune but couldn't find any in the market, Grandma would tell her, "Oh, the rain was too scarce this year, and the Chinese tune just didn't grow well." After hanging up, the mischievous old lady would wink at me and smile. The taste of those dishes still lingered on my taste buds, a memory I'd cherish forever. But when I turned 5, Grandma passed away. Justin was only a year and a half old, and my mom had to bring me back home. From the moment I returned, she seemed to find fault with me at every turn. She whispered to my dad, "Is there something wrong with this child? How could she have harmed her grandma?" I stared at her blankly, a 5-year-old too young to understand the concept of life and death. All I knew was that there was no longer anyone in the world who would choose me unconditionally. From then on, I was the child who was never favored. In the days that followed, I remained in that house, a silent observer of their ordinary lives. I watched as my mom called Jessica, asking what she wanted to eat when she came home. Jessica nonchalantly replied that she wanted seafood. When my mom went to the morning market, she happened to meet our former neighbor and her daughter, Coco, out grocery shopping. Coco and I were childhood classmates and later ended up working in the same company. We weren't close friends, but we knew each other well. My mom looked at Coco with envy. Having a daughter like Coco is such a blessing. She helps you with the groceries as soon as she's back. Unlike our Jasmine, who doesn't understand a thing. She didn't even come home for her sister's wedding and had the audacity to send her boyfriend to scold us. Coco was taken aback. "Auntie, Jasmine doesn't have a boyfriend. She's in the marketing department next door and is always swamped with work. How could she have time for a boyfriend?" She continued, "Jasmine cares about you a lot. Last month, when we got our bonuses, she went shopping and bought a gold bracelet. She said she'd give it to you at her sister's wedding." A look of bewilderment flashed across my mom's face, but it was quickly replaced by her familiar icy sarcasm. Jasmine just knows how to put on a good show in front of outsiders. You have no idea what she's like at home. Seeing this, Coco and her mom didn't know what else to say and politely said their goodbyes. My mom bought a large haul of the seafood Jessica loved and carried 2 heavy bags home. As she stood at the door, fishing for her keys, my phone rang. It was a call from my own number. Are you the mother of the deceased? We've caught the prime suspect in a series of brutal murders. We found this phone on him and deduced that you're the owner's mother. The suspect has confessed and revealed the burial site. Can you and your family come down? During my most rebellious days, I'd often wondered, what if I died? Would they regret it? Would my mother shed a tear for me? Now I finally had the answer. After hearing the police officer's words, she simply responded calmly and hung up. She opened the door, dumped the seafood on the counter, and started peeling the shrimps and crabs. Maybe by accident, a shrimp prong pierced her finger. She held her injured hand and went to the living room to get the first aid kit. Just then, Justin burst through the door, panic written all over his face. Mom, Jasmine. I just got a call. They said Jasmine died. It sounded so real. My mom, still searching for a band-aid, scoffed, what nonsense. Jasmine is probably off living her best life. Don't these scammers do their research before calling? Mom, it's not a scam. Justin cried, his voice breaking. The police called both me and Dad. Dad's on his way home right now. Jasmine, she's really gone. My mom's hands froze. She slowly looked up at Justin, the sunlight streaming in through the window casting long shadows over her face. That emotionless mask she always wore remained firmly in place as they got in the car and headed to the police station hundreds of miles away. Jessica reached out to hold her hand, trying to comfort her. Mom, the dead can't be brought back. Jasmine wouldn't want to see you like this. For the first time ever, my mom pulled her hand away from her beloved eldest daughter, leaving Jessica stunned, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hurt. At the police station, 2 officers greeted them. The older officer first offered his condolences, then said, "We've done our best to piece her body together, but some of the body parts, according to the suspect, his voice trailed off, a look of discomfort crossing his face." My mom stared at him. He what? He used them for cooking, the officer finally blurted out. My mom merely nodded. Her unusual calm seemed to unnerve the officers. As they left, the younger officer couldn't help but glance back at her several times. I watched all this, my mind suddenly racing. Why did that young officer's face seem so familiar? About a month ago, on a drizzly afternoon, I'd seen him near my company. I'd just left the office building when my mom called, ordering me to come home for Jessica's wedding in a month. I'd laughed bitterly. After half a year of no contact, now you want me back? Is this really my home? Every time I come back, I have to sleep on a tiny bed next to Jessica's piano. If I so much as take the last chicken wing, Dad scolds me for being disrespectful. If I stain the sofa during my period, Mom looks at me in disgust and makes me wash it. Is this what a home is? Mom, I have no home. I'd hung up the phone and stepped into the rain. Just a few steps away, a man in a black coat had been standing there. When our eyes met, he'd quickly turned away. At the time, consumed by my own emotions, I hadn't thought much of it. But now, it seemed he'd been watching me all along. He had been watching me all along. After hearing that heated argument between my mom and me, he saw me as an easy target. The pain of that fateful night came crashing back, this time tearing at my incorporeal soul. I curled up in mid-air, feeling as if 1,000 invisible wounds were leaking the essence of my being. It hurt more than that night of horror, yet I couldn't help but look up, fixated on my mom's expression. Even now, I was still searching. Would she regret? Would she feel a shred of sorrow? A hint of the pain I endured? My mom went to see the killer under police escort. Word was, his motive was disturbingly simple. His ex-girlfriend had left him for a wealthy man and swindled him out of all his assets. Ever since, he'd spiraled into a madness, targeting victims who resembled his former lover. Behind the cold glass of the interrogation room, he looked up at my mom and grinned malevolently. Knowing he was doomed, he seemed determined to spread his misery. In front of my mom, he began to detail my death in sickening detail. She got a hold of her phone and made a call. Lucky for me, it was cut off soon. But your daughter crying, she looked just like that bitch who betrayed me. So I peeled her face off. She was in so much pain, she couldn't even shed tears, but she kept calling for her mom. The police officer barked, "That's enough. Stop provoking the victim's family." My mom stood rigidly, her back straight as a rod, staring unblinkingly at the killer. She didn't utter a word, nor did a single tear fall. I floated right in front of her, face to face, though she couldn't see or hear me. "Mom, I hate you," I whispered. That night, the night I was violated and then slowly dismembered, I endured agony beyond imagination. Blood gushed, staining my vision red. Desperate cries, raw and animalistic, tore from my throat. The wind howled, insects chirped, dry leaves rustled, and fungi grew on damp wood. All these sounds merged into a deafening cacophony. I kept screaming, "Mom, it hurts. Save me. Mom, save me." In our most desperate moments, we instinctively call out for our mothers, hoping for a miracle. But there was none. While I was suffering, she was safe in her warm bed, dreaming of Jessica's happy wedding, of Justin's bright future at a great university, landing a good job. In her dreams, there was never any room for me. After leaving the police station, they went to my rented apartment to pack my things. I'd lived there for 2 years after graduation, working and surviving on my own. They'd never once visited. As they sat in the car, my mom suddenly said, "Jasmine." Jessica stiffened, her eyes betraying a flash of guilt. Was that call before her death to you? Jessica opened her mouth, but for once, the usually articulate girl was at a loss for words. Finally, she managed. "I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to get my makeup done, so I went to bed early. I must have accidentally turned my phone off in my sleep." She shed a few crocodile tears, making a show of her grief. My mom just nodded, as if it were a casual question. I sat there, slowly recovering from the experienced pain. Jessica's eyes glistened with fake tears, and I found my mind wandering. I remembered how our names carried such different meanings. Jessica was the pampered first-born, Justin the long-awaited son. And me, my name. Less than 24 hours after my twin brother died, the doctor said it was due to organ failure from fetal development issues. An old lady by the hospital bed had said, "This must be because the other child stole his nutrients." I've seen it in the countryside. Look at your daughter, she's perfectly healthy. My mom had looked at me with a mix of resentment and confusion. Even a month after I was born, I had no name. It was only when my grandma called and said, "The jasmine flowers in front of the old house are blooming beautifully this year. Let her be named Jasmine." The car fell silent until Justin awkwardly broke it. I didn't expect Jasmine to have such bad luck. My mom suddenly snapped at him. "What did you call her?" "Jasmine is your sister. Your dad and I can call her that, but you should show more respect." Justin, who was used to being spoiled, looked stunned. Finally, he touched his nose sheepishly. "Mom, are we going to bring back our sister's ashes after the cremation?" My mom shot him a cold glare and remained silent. My tiny 30-square-meter apartment was a mess. A sofa and coffee table were crammed next to the bed. Half a dried pomelo sat on the coffee table, a blanket was haphazardly draped over the sofa, and books were strewn across the floor. Justin, with his mild OCD, clearly wanted to say something, but one look at my mom, and he held his tongue. My mom picked up a psychology book. She paused, flipped through it, and her fingers suddenly tightened. The chapters on self, destructive tendencies, and the influence of the original family were heavily marked. Those pages were loose, showing how often I'd read them. She opened the drawer and found my hospital records, therapy transcripts, empty medicine bottles, and a small stack of travel tickets. Most were for popular coastal cities. In that cramped room, the four of them could feel the heavy, suffocating atmosphere pressing down on them. Unable to stand it any longer, Jessica pointed at the top, most ticket, and forced a light tone. "It's okay. Jasmine had a good time before she left." She traveled more than we did. But I knew this was just another one of her manipulative tactics. In front of the family, Jessica would casually drop remarks like, "Jasmine always seemed so much happier without us." She was all smiles and kindness to others, but a complete mess around us. It was her way of painting me as the heartless, ungrateful one. But today, this tactic backfired spectacularly. My mom whipped her head around, fixing Jessica with a freezing glare. "Mom," Jessica barely got the word out before a stinging slap landed across her face. She stood there stunned. My dad, who'd always doted on Jessica, rushed to her side. "What's the need for that? Talk things out." My mom was clutching my therapy transcripts. "When did you start hurting yourself? Since middle school? You felt like an outsider? Thought you didn't belong?" Her lips trembled, the shock and guilt finally catching up. "You always acted so perfect in front of us. What did you say to Jasmine behind our backs?" My dad frowned in disapproval. "Jasmine was never a good name. Jessica wasn't wrong." "Shut up." My mom's shout was sharp, her face flushed. She was clearly ignoring her own fragile health. Justin hurried over to support her. "Dad, you know Mom's heart isn't strong. Jasmine's gone. We can't." Jessica, still dazed from the slap, suddenly smiled. It was a sweet smile, but there was a poisonous edge to it, like a flower hiding thorns. "Mom, have you forgotten? When I was little, you told me Jasmine killed our brother." Justin exploded in anger. "Jessica, how dare you?" The two of them stood facing off, and in that tiny room, the divide between them was as clear as day. They argued and blamed each other for my death, their voices rising. I just drifted on the sofa, watching coldly. Then, the doorbell rang. It was the landlady from upstairs. When she opened the door and saw them, her eyes widened. "Who are you? Where's Jasmine?" The walls of this place weren't thick, and their shouting had surely carried. She liked peace and quiet, and during the time I lived there, there'd rarely been any commotion. At her question, the four of them fell silent, as if someone had grabbed them by the throat. After a long moment, my mom said, "We're Jasmine's family. She's passed away. We're here to pack her things." The landlady stared, shocked and in disbelief. Then, tears started streaming down her face. As she went back upstairs, she kept muttering, "Such a good girl." Why did this happen? They started packing my things, but it was a half-hearted attempt. There wasn't much to take, really. I'd come into this world with nothing and was leaving the same way. But there was one thing that still haunted me. As dusk fell, the blood-red twilight seeped into the room through the window. Outside, cars honked. My mom sat on the edge of the sofa, looking through my medical records. Her expression grew distant, and I wondered if she was remembering that day on the street, when I'd pushed her hand away and she'd pulled back her love so quickly. She'd always been so stingy with it. "You can't blame me," my mom said hoarsely, closing the records. She was never easy. She wasn't close to me. With 3 kids, of course I'd favor the ones who loved me back. "No, Mom, you're wrong," I said, though they couldn't hear me. "You've got it all backwards. When I first came home, I could feel your coldness. I kept testing you, hoping for your love. When Jessica offered to help with chores, you'd say, 'You're just a kid, go rest.' But when I offered to wash the dishes and broke a plate, you called me clumsy. Mom," I sobbed silently, "you gave me life. All I knew was to love you back. My love was like a mirror, reflecting whatever you showed me. All the harsh words, all the outbursts. I learned them from you. You were different to me. I spent 10 months in your womb, connected by blood. That bond stayed with me, even when I was far away. It's why, when I died, my soul came back to you. I tried to move on. I traveled, saw the mountains and the sea. I put away anything that could hurt me and took my meds. But then, I'd see a little girl holding her mom's hand at an amusement park, and I'd freeze. I'd remember when I was a kid, and my classmate told me how her mom had chased after her when she ran away, crying and promising never to scold her again. I didn't understand then that only a loved child could act like that. Once, when I was locked in the utility room, I ran away. I sat on an old swing, looking at the stars, rehearsing what I'd say if you came looking for me. I thought, she's my mom. I don't want to make her sad. I'll just ask her to be a little nicer. But I waited until midnight. The clouds covered the moon, it started to rain, and no one came. When I got home, everyone was asleep. No one even noticed I was gone. Breakfast calmly saying, still willing to come back? I thought you wanted to live outside forever so we can have fewer mouths to feed at home. Only a loved child dares to act spoiled, to have the qualifications to throw tantrums. I never escaped the strange circle of childhood. After turning 5, I was restlessly unruly in a world devoid of guidance. I asked my mom many times, almost begging, why? Why can't you love me? You don't have to love me the most, just a little, like you love Justin and Jessica. But there was never an answer. As night fell, she was about to turn another page when the police station called again. Sorry, Ms. Mary, we just arrested another suspect. It's been busy here. Your daughter has some belongings left here. Can you come pick them up when you're free? My mom and Justin went out together. Under the street lights, the streets were bustling. She walked with her head down for a while, then suddenly asked Justin, "Do you think Jasmine hates me?" Justin was visibly startled. After a long pause, he awkwardly said, "No, no way. Mom, you gave birth to her after all. Like the murderer said, she was calling out for you before she died. How could she blame you?" Justin was 21, no longer a naive child. He'd never really liked me, but not with the same malice as Jessica. Most of the time, he silently stood behind Jessica, supporting her actions. But a child's behavior is just a reflection of the adults in power within the family. Without their parents' implicit approval, Justin and Jessica would never have dared to target me so blatantly. At the police station, the police handed my mom a bag of my belongings. Inside were simple things: a set of keys, a pack of tissues, a phone with a spider, webbed shattered screen, and a blood-stained, distorted golden bracelet. There was also a crumpled card that read, "Happy birthday, Mom." My mom stared blankly at the bracelet and the blood-smeared writing for a long time. Finally, in those eyes that had always been cold or filled with fierce emotions, a hint of mist appeared. On the 7th day after my death, in my 25th year of life, my mom shed a tear for me for the first time. A month ago, the day after that fateful call, at the office, a colleague in the next cubicle told me she was pregnant. "I hope it's a girl," she said, placing her hand on her still, flat stomach with a soft smile. "I've always preferred daughters. Since I got pregnant, I've been craving oranges, so I think I'll name her Orange." She was the fiercest female powerhouse in the department, but when talking about her child, her expression softened in a way I'd never seen before. Sensing me staring, she turned to ask, "Jasmine, what's wrong?" "Nothing," I shook my head. That night, I dreamed that before I was born, my mom discovered the pregnancy and gently rested her hand on her abdomen, just as I'd always imagined. I went to see a doctor again. He said, "If you can't move forward, try going back. Some things can't be cured by medication anymore. They've become inner demons trapping you." I bought that golden bracelet. My mom's birthday was 2 months away. The salesperson asked, "Do you want to write a birthday card for your mom?" I agreed and took the pen. I thought, let's try one more time. I'm not a child anymore, and she's getting older. Maybe we can finally talk. But now there was no chance left. That rainy day, when I received that call, my fate was sealed. My ashes and belongings were brought back and laid to rest in a small cemetery on the outskirts, next to my brother's tiny urn. On the day of the burial, the sky was overcast, but no rain fell. My mom stood in front of the tombstone all day, the first signs of grief and remorse showing. I thought I'd feel relieved, at peace. But as I watched her pain, all I felt was endless indifference. The decades of pent-up pain and emotions that had built up over my life exploded in those few hours, leaving me emotionally exhausted. That night, after my mom came home, she sat quietly on the sofa. She had retired, Justin was back at school, my dad was busy at the factory, and Jessica had returned to her home with Stephen. Everyone, after this brief upheaval, had gone back to their lives. After a long while, my mom suddenly smiled. "Jasmine, it ends here for just the two of us." The next day, My mom got up early and went to the market. Since she often bought seafood, the stall owners greeted her enthusiastically. Today's shrimp are big and fresh. Your daughter will love them. My mom said blankly, my daughter is allergic to seafood. The stall owner gave her a strange look, but didn't say anything and went to attend to other customers. My mom carried a bamboo basket and wandered in front of the vegetable stalls, picking up carrots and then putting them down, picking up green peppers and doing the same. Her behavior was odd. The stall owner kindly offered, if you know what you want to cook, I can recommend some ingredients. Watching her stand there, struggling to remember with a confused look, I suddenly realized she didn't know what I liked to eat. From childhood to adulthood, I'd never had the privilege to choose my meals like Jessica, nor was I as picky as Justin. I'd never had a say. She cooked whatever she wanted, and I ate it. Just then, the stall owner took out a small bamboo basket from underneath. We got some fresh wild mushrooms today. They're really good for frying with meat. Want some? At the word wild mushrooms, it was as if a sharp knife stabbed at my mom's heart. She held a small handful of mushrooms, her body suddenly convulsing as she bent over, tears dripping onto the market floor one by one. Jasmine. The number of times she'd called me by name in my presence could be counted on one hand, but now, when I was already dead, how could I respond? She put down the mushrooms, carried the empty bamboo basket home. After sitting in silence for a while, she picked up the phone and called Jessica, her tone icy. You haven't touched the piano in half a year. If you still want it, I'll arrange for someone to send it to your place. Otherwise, I'll have the scrap collectors take it away. Jessica burst into tears. Mom, what are you doing? Just because I'm married, am I no longer part of this family? Don't I deserve a room here? Your bedroom is still there, my mother replied expressionlessly. I need to clear out Jasmine's room. Jessica fell silent. The phone call I made before my death, though it couldn't make her take responsibility for my fate, had indeed made her position in the family precarious. My mother wasted no time. By the next morning, the music room was empty. She scoured the furniture market, trying to find the exact same bed and wardrobe that she'd once discarded, but to no avail. She retrieved my slightly musty clothes from the storage room, laid them out carefully, and hung them in the newly arranged wardrobe. There weren't many clothes, mostly items I'd bought during my school years. Even if I were alive, they wouldn't fit me anymore. Then, she took the damaged bracelet to a jewelry store, had a craftsman repair it as best as possible, and wore it on her wrist. My memorial photo was placed prominently in the room, and every morning, the first thing she did after waking up was to go in and wipe the frame clean. I hovered restlessly around the room, filled with a mix of anger and despair. I wanted to lash out, to sweep everything off the bookshelf, to rip the new bed sheets she'd bought. I wanted to scream at her, stop pretending, Mom. Creating this false image of love to ease your guilt. Do you even believe your own act? But I was a silent spectator. Even if I spoke, she couldn't hear me. For the first time as a soul, I realized the cruel irony of my existence. When would I finally be able to move on, to fade away? Or would I be doomed to watch their lives from the sidelines forever? Thankfully, change came sooner than I expected. That afternoon, my mother received a call from Justin's school. Justin had been in a serious fight with a classmate, leaving the other boy severely injured. He was facing expulsion and potential legal consequences. The school hoped a guardian could come to complete the withdrawal procedures immediately. My mother held the phone, stunned. But he's only half a year away from graduating. How could he get into a fight for no reason? The school's explanation was evasive. It was mostly due to some emotional disputes. In reality, Justin had been pursuing a girl. Just as he was about to confess his feelings, another boy stepped in and won her over. When Justin confronted the boy, the latter taunted him, "Your own sister died so horribly, and you still have the audacity to fall in love. Who'd want to be with someone like you?" Enraged, Justin picked up a glass and smashed it against the boy's forehead, the shards piercing his temple. Since Justin was the aggressor and the other student was badly hurt, expulsion was inevitable. Worse still, the boy's parents had reported the incident to the police. The once cocky Justin broke down in tears at the sight of my mother. She remained relatively calm, sitting down to negotiate compensation with the victim's parents. They initially insisted on pressing charges, wanting to give Justin a criminal record. My mother eventually managed to reach a settlement of 1 million yuan. Justin avoided jail time but was expelled from school. On the way home, he was despondent. Jasmine's dead. What's wrong with me falling in love? Can't I live a normal life? My mother turned to him, her gaze cold and assessing. Justin shivered under her stare. What's wrong, Mom? He asked nervously. She shook her head, her voice hoarse. Let's just go home. With only a high school diploma, Justin couldn't find a job at any reputable company. My mother had him join my dad at the family factory, grooming him to take over the business. The work was tough and Justin wasn't interested, but he had no other choice. 3 months into his new job, a disaster struck. A worker's hand got caught in a machine and was crushed. Rushed to the hospital, the man was barely saved, but his family was left in dire straits. His wife had just given birth, and now they'd lost their main source of income. My dad, however, exploited a loophole in the contract. Instead of compensating the worker, he demanded payment for the damaged machine. Karma caught up quickly. After being discharged from the hospital, the worker, driven by desperation and anger, barged into the factory with a knife. He forced my dad to put his hands into the same machine that had maimed him. Justin stood there, frozen, watching the horror unfold. He was too scared to step forward and stop the man. Only after the attack did he rush my dad to the hospital and call my mother. I followed her into the hospital. She walked up to Justin and slapped him across the face, her eyes filled with disbelief and disappointment. That's your father. Why couldn't you do anything to stop it? Justin, his eyes red from crying, stammered, Mom, he had a knife. It was absurd. He could fight a classmate over a girl, but when it came to saving his own father, he was a coward. My dad lost his right hand completely and was left with only 2 fingers on his left. His mangled palms looked grotesque. It hurts, he moaned. My mother stared at him, her face a mask of shock and sorrow. The once proud and prosperous family seemed to be crumbling before my eyes, and I watched, a silent, spectral witness to their downfall. Staring at the bloodstains on the bandages, my mother suddenly asked blankly, Do you think that night, Jasmine felt more pain than this? She kept calling me over and over. How could I not hear her cries? How could I? There was only silence in response. Some questions, it seemed, were destined to remain unanswered forever. After being discharged from the hospital, my dad sank into a deep despondency, and Justin's meager abilities couldn't keep the family business afloat. In a moment of desperation, Jessica returned home with Stephen, proposing that the 3 of them jointly manage the business. My mother's eyes landed on the faint bruises on Jessica's delicate face, marks of some past hurt now almost healed. What happened? She demanded, pulling Jessica into a room. Press twice. Jessica broke down in tears. After Jasmine died, Stephen has been so cold to me. And with Dad saying he'd pass the business to Justin, we had a huge fight. He said he was never truly into me, that it didn't matter since the business would go to Justin anyway. He even hit me, blaming me for not answering Jasmine's call and causing her death. Mom, how could he treat me like this? Jessica, who'd been coddled all her life, looked fragile and on the verge of collapse, hoping for her mother's comfort and intervention. But my mother just stared at her expressionlessly. Was he wrong? What he said, Jessica stood there, stunned and disbelieving. Why do you hate Jasmine so much? Every time she called you, it was urgent, maybe even life-threatening. My mother brushed past Jessica indifferently, leaving the room. In that moment, I realized how sharp and perceptive she could be. She saw through Jessica's schemes and laid bare her malicious intentions towards me, shattering her false facade. But why, when I was alive, had I never seen this side of her, not even once? Did it really take my death for her to show this? During dinner, the argument flared up again, this time centered around the ownership of the factory. To my surprise, both Justin and Jessica were convinced they deserved it, and their quarrel quickly devolved into a bitter exchange of accusations. Remember when you ruined Mom's silk scarf and blamed it on Jasmine? How dare you point fingers at me now? Justin sneered. Jessica retorted, and what about when Jasmine was bullied in high school? Wasn't it you who untied her bra strap on the way to school and ran off, getting her caught by those bullies? And when she went to college, you immediately convinced Mom to turn her room into a piano room. What talent do you have for piano? Everyone knows your true motives. And you had the nerve to make Mom force Jasmine to apply to a local university so she could take care of you. You couldn't even wash your own underwear without dumping it on her. The bickering grew louder and more vicious. My mother's face turned pale, and she suddenly stood up, shouting enough. Jasmine is dead. Can't you let her rest in peace? The family, once seemingly harmonious, now resembled a grotesque horror painting. My mother leaned on the table, gasping for breath. Jasmine died such a tragic death. Even the neighbors and her landlady cried when they heard the news. But not a single tear from either of you. And now you want to drag her into this mess? Enough. My dad suddenly interrupted. I understand you're grieving, but aren't you going too far? I was in excruciating pain at the hospital all night, and you didn't come to comfort me. All you cared about was Jasmine. You didn't even buy me breakfast. You just went back to clean her memorial photo. Let's face it, her dying on Jessica's wedding day was a curse. Our family's luck has been in the dumps ever since. I consulted a master, and he said if we move Jasmine's ashes out of the grave, build a well, and bury her soul in the depths, our family will finally be free from this bad luck and prosper again. My mother fell silent, looking like a wilted flower, all the life drained from her in an instant. After a long moment, she raised her head, her gaze piercing each of them like a sharp blade. My cold-hearted father, the two, faced Jessica, the selfish and impulsive Justin. This family, which had seemed so harmonious on the surface, was rotten to the core, filled with nothing but lies and hatred. When I was alive, they'd held together only by their shared disdain for me. But now my tragic death had shattered that pretense, revealing their true, ugly selves. To my surprise, my mother suddenly calmed down, her tone softening incredibly. You're right. Jasmine was the only unlucky one in this family. We shouldn't fight over her. Sit down and eat. I watched, not really surprised. This was the same family I'd known all my life. After dinner, my mother locked herself in my room. She held my memorial photo, her fingertips trembling as she gently stroked it. I'm sorry, Jasmine. I'm so sorry. You've suffered too much all these years. We owe you. Mom owes you. Mom will make it right. She opened a drawer and took out a bottle of sleeping pills she'd gotten from the hospital, pills she'd been taking to cope with her nightmares. I watched as she crushed the entire bottle and dissolved the powder in a glass of water. The next day, she cooked a feast, lacing each dish with the sleeping pills. After the family ate, drowsiness overtook them, and they retreated to their rooms. My mother then went around the house, opening all the interior doors, locking the front door from the inside. She collected everyone's phones, smashed them, and threw them, along with the house keys, out of the window. Then, she tightly closed all the windows, turned on the gas valve, and set the stove to its highest setting before dousing the flame with water. Finally, she sat on the couch, holding my memorial photo, waiting calmly for death to claim them all. I floated in front of her, watching as the house filled with the deadly gas. In the end, the family that had caused me so much pain was about to meet a tragic end, and I couldn't tell if I felt relief, sadness, or a strange sense of emptiness. I floated side, watching her intently, just as I had in the interrogation room. Her breath grew rapid, pupils dilated, and her lips took on a surreal cherry red. Mom, why did you do this? Does atoning through death really lead to forgiveness? It won't. I will always hate you. I will never forgive you, I said, my voice filled with a mix of pain and resignation. As her life slowly ebbed away, the tenuous blood ties that bound us also dissipated. When I floated towards the door, the last remnants of that connection vanished without a trace. Just then, I heard my mom's voice, weak yet filled with a desperate hope. Jasmine, is that you? Don't go. Jasmine, Mom wants to see you, but I didn't turn back. We had been strangers in life, and now, in death, it was no different. My soul began to fragment, gradually dissolving into tiny particles, carried away by the wind. In that moment, I seemed to see my grandmother. She was wearing that soft floral shirt I remembered so well, and she reached out to hold my hand. I've been looking out for you, Jasmine. For 20 years, I've been searching, and I found a good family for you. In the next life, our Jasmine will surely be happy. And I'll still be your grandmother. We'll plant a Chinese tune tree and a peach tree at the front gate. As the night deepened, my consciousness hadn't completely faded, allowing me to witness the most beautiful sight in the world. Countless shooting stars streaked across the night sky, scattering their light between the mountains and the sea. So there were shooting stars tonight. They say if you make a wish on a shooting star, it will come true. So in the next life, I wish for parents who love me. I don't need wealth or luxury. Just a simple cake on my birthday and a red balloon at the amusement park, that would be enough.